First off, I have a couple, before I get to the Sunrise review, I have a couple of announcements, I guess. Some disqualifications from the first Academy Awards. I mean, they're disqualified from me reviewing them, not that they're disqualified from the first Academy Awards. I'm not a master of time and space. Sorry. First off, there's people who were nominated, but not for any specific movies, so I'm just going to delete them from my list, I'll just announce who they are so that one day when my videos are very important to historians, which I fully believe will be true, I'll just mention these people and they'll know who they were somehow, even though I don't know who they are. For best title writing was George Marion Jr. Title writing were the people who wrote the intertitles. I think they had to paint them onto a cardboard sheet to take pictures of them. It was a weird award. They only gave it for this year. Because, it was only for silent movies. It's the only silent movie Academy Awards, essentially. So yeah, George Marion Jr., I'm sure you were great at painting those letters onto cardboard. And then two more for Best Engineering Effects. Again, they just didn't say what movies they worked on. Nugent Slaughter and Ralph Hammers. So wait, their names are Hammers and Slaughter. That sounds like a detective show or something, like Hammers and Slaughter. They're the roughest detectives out there. I don't know. Oh, his name's Hammerus. Hammerus? Hammers. I like Hammers and Slaughter better. Well, Ralph Hammers and Nugent Slaughter. Sorry, but yeah, I don't know what movie you worked on. I'm not going to find out. And then I discovered there's a few lost films on this list. If you didn't know, there's a lot of lost films that they more than likely they burned up in a fire. Because old film was not just flammable, but highly explosive. That's why most movie lots would store them in one area all by themselves so they were safe, basically, but also safe from people in case they exploded. Watch Inglourious Bastards for more information. But because of that, many film reels just got lost, probably in a fire. And though there's definitely proof these movies happened, there's just absolutely no way of watching them anymore. So far I've found 4 movies. There might be more. But 4 movies that there's just no way I can watch them and review them. Best Cinematography, there was 4 movies nominated. One was Sunrise by Charles Rosher and Karl Struss. And that's what won. And the other 3 movies were all by George Barnes as the cinematographer, but none of them won. So George Barnes was stiffed 3 times in the same category in the first Oscars. I just think that's kind of funny. But 2 of George Barnes' movies are lost. They're just gone, and that's The Devil Dancer and The Magic Flame. There's just no way to watch them anymore as far as anyone knows. Until some collector discovers they had a lost reel from eons ago or whatever. But I'm just going to delete them from this list. I'm not going to try to watch them because you can't. Another from Best Title Writing was Gerald Duffy. I guess he wrote the titles for The Private Life of Helen of Troy, and it's partially still intact, but it's only the first and last reel or something, and the middle reels are all gone. And I'm not going to try to watch them and review them. That's not a movie. Oh, the last one was The Way of All Flesh, which Emil Jennings got the Best Actor award for, but he also got for The Last Command, because this was the one time actors could share the same award for different movies. But The Way of All Flesh is gone. It's just lost. But we do have The Last Command is still intact. And was digitalized or whatever. Digitized. Alright, that was basically my announcement. Just that those movies aren't reviewable. And truthfully, if I can't find things on streaming services or YouTube, because a lot of these are on YouTube. I watched the movie yesterday on YouTube. Because they're that old and probably in the public domain. I don't know. By next year, everything in 1927 will go in the public domain. So if they're not in the public domain now, or they will be by next year or the year after, because some of these are 1928 movies. Sorry, I'm over-explaining. Sunrise is the movie I'm reviewing today. And Sunrise is one of those movies that if you're a film history student or just a film buff, you may have heard of. Considered one of the greats of the silent era, by many people anyway. I did not like it. But being that this is a silent era movie, maybe there's something I'm just missing because I've seen a lot of silent movies, but I've wouldn't call myself like a person who fully understands silent movies, or because films are always a product of their time. And because I wasn't alive in the 20s, I mean, I can probably like research the 20s some and be like, oh, that's why blankety blank, just for this one stupid movie. And part of me kind of wonders if this was just like a last gasp of the silent era, you might say, or silent filmmakers trying to, push something out there to be like, so that they can point out and be like, see, this is something you can't do with the talkies. The talkies will never be this good, or something like that. Or like some kind of like artsy thing that they were basically trying to do, and be like a visual poem of sorts or something like that. Just trying to point at something and be like, talkies can't do this because they're not good enough. They'll never be good enough to do something like this. And it's like, well, this actually isn't that good. But that's what I think personally. I think part of it is that, okay, let me just explain the story, because I think that'll help me pontificate my point here. So it starts out with the husband. It's like a husband and wife character, and I think their names in the movie are just husband and wife, pretty much. And the husband leaves the wife really late at night, just like, I'm going out for some coffee or something, and just runs away. But she like knows that he's going out to have an affair, and that's exactly what he's doing. So she stays at home and cries, and then he goes out and meets up with this lady down by a lake. And because they're meeting by a lake, I think she's like, why don't you drown your wife and run away with me? And he's like, all right. And then he takes his wife out on a boat, and like he gets up to like kill her. And as he's approaching her, she like gets really scared because she like realizes like, oh, you're about to fucking drown me because you're gonna run away with your girlfriend. It's like really obvious that he's about to do something really violent to her. But like right before he does, he suddenly sees how scared she is, and that makes him decide that he's not going to kill her, and instead he's going to love his wife and not cheat on her anymore. But he takes her back to the shore, and then she runs away from him immediately because she's like, you tried to kill me, you're an evil. But he chases her down and takes her to like a restaurant or something, or he catches up to a restaurant, and then he gives her some bread, and then she starts to cry, and then that like makes her be like, oh, maybe it's not so bad, or something. Or maybe there's something else after that, I forget. But then they fall in love all over again and decide to go back out on the lake for some reason. And this is all the same night, and so they go back out on the lake, and then there's this horrible storm that capsizes the boat, and he like survives and goes back to shore. But he's like, oh, she's out there somewhere, and he organizes a search party. But while that's going on, like the woman he was having an affair with finally finds him and like thinks that he drowned his wife like she asked him to. But then he's like, you did this to me, and he's about to kill her or something. And then right before he kills her, then they're like, oh, we found your wife and she's fine, basically. And then they're in love and it's happily ever after, and that's it. For a movie that like claims to be some sort of like visual poetry, like I was saying before, I don't know if it actually claims that, but I know it's supposed to be like really artistic and unique and blah, blah, blah. But it's an entire movie that I think basically the message is maybe instead of cheating on your wife and killing her, you should love her and, not kill her. But it's like also a movie where the husband is like really awful, and then he doesn't get any consequences. And in fact, only good things happen to him after that. Because it's supposed to be artistic and everything, I keep like thinking maybe there's some kind of deeper meaning I'm missing somehow. But every time I keep thinking about it, I was like, I don't know, maybe it's supposed to like be some kind of like the dual nature of man or something. That it's not so much Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's more like this person's a really selfish asshole and nothing but good things happens to him. like he has a scare is what happens. Even though he was about to drown his wife earlier because women are just objects to him. And the other thing is that it like shows the wife to be basically, she's like not bad at all, she's like just this loving, doting wife. Like when he leaves her, she's like crying like, oh, I love my husband so much. I've done nothing but good things for him. Like she obviously doesn't deserve any of this treatment. And it's like the whole movie, the only person who seems to deserve bad things to happen to them is the husband, but he's like shown almost as if he's like the victim in all this circumstance, even though he's the one who was like going to kill his wife. He's the one who decided to do that. Just because it's changed his mind didn't mean he wasn't going to do that. So it's like this movie that's trying to be this artistic masterpiece, but really it's like trying to convey the wrong message to the wrong people, and really it's the byproduct of evil, is what I think. So I'm sorry, film historians. I know this is like everyone's favorite silent movie for some reason. I think the message of it is deeply, deeply flawed. It's like the visual equivalent of rationalizing your husband's toxic behavior, like physically abusing you, but like he's not so bad because sometimes he changes his mind. Sometimes he decides not to beat me, so therefore he's okay. Oh, another thing that's like just stupid about this movie is that there's essentially no second act. And I don't mean that like they skip the second act. I mean that like the first act ends with his wife getting away from him because he changed his mind and everything. And then once he catches up to her, he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Then it's just like half an hour to 45 minutes of just pure nothing. Nothing happens plot-wise. I mean, things happen. They like go out to eat, like I said, and I think they go dancing or something. And then they go to a circus for a while and go to a carnival, or it's a carnival's part of the circus or something like that. But they don't, it doesn't, nothing happens, you know? Outside, I mean, they go to these places and it's like, look at how visual it is and everything. And maybe that's kind of the part. Like movies were still very gimmicky at the time of being like very showy and being like, just want to like show things off in a lot of ways. Look at the stuff we videotaped for you to look at, you know? You can see an elephant in this movie. And that might have been a big draw at the time, I don't know. But it's one thing to show an elephant, and another thing to have an elephant there for story purposes. You know? One is definitely better than the other. And I'll let you figure that out. Which one's better. At least there wasn't any racism in it. At least not that I noticed. Trying to think of any positives. Oh, the score was actually really good. And like I was reading like some trivia, and I guess this was one of the first movies to actually have the score on the film itself. Even though it was still a silent movie, like the sound effects and the score in it were the ones in the original film, which is kind of cool. Oh, I also watched it on Amazon Prime, so if you watch that version, the score should be the same. I thought the acting was decent. I mean, the guy, even though I didn't like the main character, I felt the guy playing him did a really good job of doing like monster face, which was kind of, every time he was about to kill someone, even though he never actually killed someone, he would always get like this, you know. It just made me think of like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of thing, or maybe even Frankenstein a little bit. Just he suddenly turned into a monster, and I thought he was very good at being like making his presence the threatening part, his very presence like threatening, as it were. And even though like it was intensely melodramatic, I feel like the acting like really heightened that, at least. I mean, I'm not a big fan of melodrama, but I knew what they were going for, and I saw that they were doing it well, at least that part, even if I didn't like the story. The cinematography was actually pretty good, too. That was something that was noticeably good. Like, for its time especially, there was just some shots I was like, wow, you know, like everything is very clear. And these shots are set up very well so that you can see a lot of action. Like one of the first shots was actually on a boat, and you see like boats in the background going beyond them and stuff. And I thought that was a very dynamic shot and a way to kind of set the stage almost for like the boating stuff, the horrible boating stuff happening later. But this is just like a normal shot of boats going by while also on a boat. There's also another time when they were like made up and they were crossing the street and walking beyond these cars, and you could tell that it was like a green screen or some kind of effect like that, rear screen projection or something like that. And then it faded to them like walking through a romantic forest or something that I thought was kind of cool. And then it faded back as they cause a traffic jam as they're like making out in the middle of the street and like all these cars. So that part was actually pretty funny. They had a couple of humorous moments like that, which I also appreciated. So yeah, I think I'll just give it a rating then. I can't really think of anything else to say about the movie. I feel everything about it was good except the story. I mean, there's this old adage I heard when I was just getting into screenwriting, I guess. You can't make a good movie out of a bad script. I think that's definitely true here. That you can like really shine up your big dog turd, You know, make it all nice and shiny as much as you want, but it's still a dog turd. If I was grading it just on the story, I'd probably give it like a 2. The only reason it's not a 1 is just like good effort, you know, like the double check mark that a teacher might give you. Good effort. But I would raise it up a point, maybe 2 points, just because like the score was really good, the acting was pretty good, and the cinematography. Yeah, I'll say 2 points just for all those things. So 4. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. It's mostly because I know, you know, it wasn't like the cinematographer's fault that the script was horrible. Well, unless he wrote it. I don't know. I don't know anything about this movie outside of what I've said already. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the review as much as I didn't enjoy this movie. I don't know why you do keep thumbs upping things. Thumbs up at the end. All thumbs at the end of these videos. Thummy. Like and subscribe and peace.